Today, we're jumping into something really interesting, a financial showdown. New launch property versus a resale. We're going to follow the money step by step over 4 years to see who actually wins this race.
So, let's start with the big one, right? The question every single property investor faces. Do you go for that shiny new build, betting on its future but having to wait? Or do you grab a resale that you can move into like tomorrow?
And look, to figure this out, we're not just guessing. We're following a really detailed financial story, a model from our source material. It lets us track 2 investments, dollar for dollar, over 4 really critical years. It's like a financial play-by-play.
Okay, so here's our game plan for today. We'll set up the problem, look at the starting numbers, track the journey, see who wins in the end, and then, most importantly, figure out why. Let's get right into it. All right, section 1. Let's really set the scene for this big decision.
Yeah, it's that classic choice, isn't it? Do you buy a brand new place and wait, or do you buy a resale and move in right away? You've got the promise of something perfect and new, but you got to be patient. Or you get to move in now, but there might be other costs lurking. Each choice kicks off a totally different financial journey.
Okay, let's get to the numbers. Before we start this 4-year race, we have to know the starting line. What are the key assumptions here? So, to make this a fair fight, the model puts both investors on the exact same starting block. We're talking a $2.2 million property with a 75% loan. That's $1.65 million borrowed. At this point, they're absolutely neck and neck. But this is where the two paths split. Big time. And it all comes down to one single super important idea. CAGR, or compound annual growth rate. Basically, it's just the average speed that the investment is assumed to grow each year. It's the engine of this whole comparison. And here it is, the single most important slide. The model assumes the new launch is going to grow at a pretty solid 5% a year. The resale, it's just kind of chugging along at 1%. That's a 5 times faster growth rate. This one assumption, well, it's everything. You've got to keep this in mind.
Okay, so with those growth rates locked in, let's start the clock on our 4-year journey. Let's see how the money actually gets spent while that new launch is being built. So you can see the new launch coming to life here. Year 1, they're laying the foundation, and by year 4, it's finally complete. That's when you get what's called the TOP, or Temporary Occupation Permit. Basically, it means you can move in.
Okay, year 1. And right away, the financial stories for our 2 buyers are like night and day. The money starts moving, but in totally different directions.
Bam! Right out of the gate, our resale buyer gets hit with a huge bill, $100,000 for renovations. And that's not all. Their full mortgage payments, taxes, maintenance fees, it all starts from day 1. Now, the new launch buyer, totally different story. Their main cost is rent, $50,000 for the year. But here's the kicker. Their loan interest is tiny. Why? Because the bank only releases money as the building gets built. They're not paying interest on the full amount yet. So as we fast forward through years 2, 3, and 4, and we see that new building go up, these 2 cost structures just keep on growing. And the picture of who's spending what gets a whole lot clearer. All right, 4 years are up. Let's look at the damage. The new launch buyer, they've paid $200,000 in rent and about $46,000 in interest. Now, the resale buyer, no rent, sure, but they've shelled out over $116,000 in interest, plus another $132,000 for renovations, maintenance, and taxes. Oof. And done. The building is finished. The wait is over. This is it, folks, the moment of truth. Let's tally up the final score and see who came out on top. And wow, this chart right here shows you the massive power of that growth assumption we talked about. Remember that 5% CAGR? It rocketed the new launch's value up by over $474,000. And the resale, with its 1% growth, it only gained about $89,000. But hold on, what about all those costs? I mean, rent, renovations, interest, all that cash out the door? Well, here's the real shocker. After 4 years, the total amount of money both investors spent was almost exactly the same. We're talking less than a 1% difference. Isn't that wild? So here's the bottom line. You take that huge gain in value for the new launch, you subtract the costs, and that investor is left with a clean profit of over $227,000. Not bad. The resale, on the other hand, well,
It's a completely different story, and not a happy one. You take its small gain, subtract its almost identical costs, and what do you get? A paper loss of more than $159,000. A huge swing.
So wait, that's a difference of almost 400 grand between the two? How is that possible when the costs were the same? What was the secret sauce here? Let's break down the one thing that decided this whole race. It all goes back to that one thing, the growth rate. That's it. Even though the costs over 4 years were basically a wash, the explosive growth of the new launch just created so much more money that it wiped out all the expenses. It made paying 4 years of rent totally worth it in this scenario.
So this model is a really fantastic way to think about these trade-offs. But you have to remember, the entire result was based on that one big assumption about growth. It makes you wonder, right? What if you flip those numbers? What if the resale grew at 5% and the new launch only at 1%? How would the race end then? And that is why understanding the assumptions behind any investment is so important.